Good day. Today we'll speak about uh, different types of fixation of uh, removable dentures, arc dentures. It will be the second lecture, our second lecture on um, prosthetics of uh, teeth rows. First of all, it will be devoted to types of fixation of plate and removable bridges, bent one arm, supporting holding clasps, overlapping processes. It's very important part. Work of the shoulder of the holding clasp and the concept of the clasp line. Uh, First of all, we need to tell you that there are several types of fixation. First, this is a mechanical type. The second one is biomechanical type. Then physical and biophysical or biological. Mechanical method. The method is based on the use of various mechanical devices for fixing plate processes, including ligatures and springs. Here you can see different types of mechanical fixation. Here a clamper, telescopic crowns, uh, attachment, and beam fastenings. When making the shoulder of the holding clasp, you need to um, remember about the following requirements. First of all, the shoulder should cover the tooth from the labial or buccal side, located directly behind the lines of the greatest convexity, between the equator and the gum. Uh, Second term, the shoulder of the clasp should touch the surface of the tooth and the maximum number of points. Fitting only at one point leads to a sharp increase in pressure during the movement of the prosthesis and contributes to the development of enamel necrosis. The third part, the shoulder should spring when the prosthesis is displaced. Um, the fourth, the shoulder must be passive. Uh, don't exert pressure on the cover tooth. Um, Next one, by the nature of the contact of the clasp shoulder with the crown. First group, her clasps with a plain touch of the shoulder of the tooth crown, bent and cast tape clasps. Clasps of this group have a large plane of contact with the crown of the tooth and sometimes leads to abrasion of the enamel, make it difficult to teeth to self-cleaning from food debris, which can lead to the development of caries. They're also imperfect from the anesthetic point of view. The fixing effect is achieved as a result of increasing the plate of contact of the clasp shoulder to the tooth and the force for its pressing. The second group is the clasp with a linear touch of the shoulder to the tooth crown. This group consists of such clasps: round one shoulder band, Jackson's crossover, Dusing clasps, and others. Such clasps have sufficiently elasticity since they are bent out round elastic orthodontic wire. The third group of clambers clasps with a point contact to the tooth crown. This group is made of such clasps: button-shaped, spear-shaped, hook-shaped, arrow-shaped Schwartz, and Adams clasp. Here also the next type of fixation of arc processes. Here you can see attachments. Attachments are understood as mechanical devices of designed for fixation, retention, and stabilization of dentures and consisting of two parts, a matrix and patrix. Here on this slide, you can see only a patrix. Attachment functions, direct fixation. First, support. Resist the movement of the prosthesis to the prosthetic bed. Second one, retention, cause stabilization, counteract the resistance to the movement of the prosthesis from the prosthetic bed. Prevent horizontal displacement of the prosthesis. The next one is fixation, counteract the displacement of the prosthesis from the abutment tooth. And the last one, distribution of the chewing pressure. This slide shows you advantages of attachments before clasps. First, they give better fixation and stabilization. They're more hygienic. They have significantly better aesthetic indicators. The fourth, less prone to breakage than clasps. And the fifth, are convenient for prosthetics of patients with periodontal diseases when the use of a rigid splinting system using artificial crowns can be used to create a lock-in attachment over removable prostheses. Also, the next type of fixation is telescopic fixation, where you use double crown system, the primary crown and the secondary crown. Here you can see a double crown system, external and internal. The inner crown has a cylindrical shape. Here it is, the primary crown. And the rule follows the contours of the prepared tooth. And the outer, the external or secondary crown, that reproduces the anatomical shape of the tooth and is always connected to a removable prosthesis. Here you can see the secondary, the external crown, and he put on this primary crown. There are two types of telescopical crowns. First, cylindrical, and the second, conical. They are used only in the closed structures. Here you can see the primary crowns, and here you can see all the removable dentures together with the secondary crowns. There also have physical methods of fixation, as adhesion, the emergence of the bond between the surface layers of two dissimilar solid or liquid bodies brought into contact. And cohesion. This is cohesion of molecules, atoms, ions in the physical body, which is due to intermolecular interaction and chemical bonds. And biophysical or physical biological method in Russian, yes, it's based on a thorough study of the anatomical features of the structure of the edentulous, non-teeth jaws, which allows you to best form a circular closing valve with a wide area of support. The clasp line is an imaginary line passing through the abutment teeth on which the clasps are placed, in the axis around which the processes can rotate. Here you can see the parts of clasp of clamor. The first one, the restraining part of shoulder, restraining part of shoulder. And the second one, the stabilizing part of the shoulder. Here it is. Occlusal patch. Here you can see it. And then down we can see the body of the clasp and the clasp process. The retention part of the shoulder should have spring properties, tightly cover the vestibular of the surface of the tooth, and resist the force displace occlusal processes. The holding action of the clasp is carried out due to the fact that the holding part of the shoulder has a conical shape and is located in a diagonal direction on the vestibular surface of the tooth so that it crosses the equator of the tooth and ends in the springly end in the retention zone. This part is located in the retention zone. The stabilizing part of the shoulder should be rigid and parallel to the equator of the tooth. It tightly covers the tooth and prevents the displacement of the processes, and in the horizontal direction, transferring part of the horizontal load to the abutment tooth. The occlusal patch is the third short arm of the triangular clasp, which lies the occlusal surface of the tooth. Clamor line can have the following directions. It can be transversal, diagonal, or sagittal. Here you can see if it connects, for example, from a canine on one side to the last molar or on the other side, it calls diagonal. If it lasts from canine on one side and last molar on the same side, it calls sagittal. And transversal, if for example it connects, this line connects, this fixation line connects first premolar on one side and first premolar on the other side. The clamor line direction, it's defined by the topography of the defect and the state of the periodontum of remaining teeth. The location of clamor, the points or locations of clasps in a plate processes a single clasp. Linear arrangement, there are two clasps in the processes, and plane arrangement. There are at least three clasps on the processes. For example, okay, if you have clasps on this one, on this one, and on this one, this is a plane fixation. If you have only this one and this one, this is line fixation. And you will have only one tooth, for example, this one, and it has a clasp. This is a point fixation or point location of the clasp. Clasp system can be adopted if can be defined good if it carries out fixation to the same extent on all abutment teeth, excludes overturning or rotation of the processes, minimally violates aesthetic norms, and also if the clasp don't create the traumatic occlusion. The requirements for abutment teeth, there are first, the tooth must be stable. Second one, the tooth have should have pronounced anatomical shape. The third one, the abutment tooth must have relationship with an antagonist so that the occlusal clasp doesn't interfere with the closing of the teeth. Also, we'll speak about overlapping prostheses. Uh, just a bit later, I'll send you a big lecture about these overlapping processes in PDF file. These processes that distributes the load of the mucosous membrane and the periodontium, and also has an external resemblance to complete removable dentures. Advantages, the following advantages. The first one, the functional stabilization by preserving the contours of the alveolar process. The second one, improved fixation, especially when using attachments. Increasing chewing efficiency due to improved fixation and stabilization. A decrease in pressure on the mucous membrane. The possibility of shortening the base of the processes, especially in the distal border of the upper jaw, which is often psychologically important for a patient, and acceleration of adaptation, which is facilitated by all the above factors. But also, we have disadvantages or drawback. Yes. First, the complexity of preparation for prosthetics and endodontic treatment, surgical correction of the ratio of the supra and sublingual parts of the tooth extractions, and etc. The second one, technological complexity of the manufacture of prostheses. These are various types of fixation, telescopic fixation, locks, and etc. The complexity of the patient motivation by the dentist, as well as certain difficulties in caring for the prostheses and higher manufacturer cost. Indications of overlapping prostheses while maintaining at least one tooth with a favorable prognosis of the jaw, with a fracture of pathological destruction of the crown part of the tooth and with a small number of remaining teeth. With the destruction of the large number of teeth, caries and its complications, imperfect dentogenesis. In case of unfavorable anatomical and topographic conditions, of the presence of single teeth and or roots, after the removal of which a complete removable denture will be required. With pathological abrasion, especially accompanied by a large loss of teeth, with periodontal disease when the ratio of the intra and extra-alveolar parts of the teeth is sharply disturbed, and their depulpation and subsequent shortening can change the situation for the better. And in the presence of roots, the removal of which will lead to the emergence and of an defect in the dentition. Uh, the processes can be divided into three parts. First, short-term or temporary processes. The second part, medium-term or intermediate, and the long-term or final. Here you can see different types. Uh, uh, you can see abutments. Here is the pins, intradental pins with abutments on over. And here also you can see primary crowns. Thank you for paying attention. If you have questions, you can type it into our group chat. It's no problem.